Hi, everyone. My name is Vicente Duarte. I teach English at Tamus Education International in Almaty, Kazakhstan. Today, I'm sharing some reflections on how teaching methods, classroom interaction, and assessment practices shape student motivation and learning, especially in diverse, multilingual settings like mine. This is a mix of theory and lived experience, and I hope it resonates with what you see in your own classrooms too. So here's what I'll be walking through. First, I'll talk about teaching method I use regularly and how it supports or sometimes challenges student learning. Then I'll look at how teacher-student relationships impact motivation. I'll evaluate one assessment approach we use at my school. And finally, I'll share some practical recommendations for making assessment more meaningful. Everything is grounded in real examples from my classroom, backed by research from this course. One method I use often is station-based inquiry-driven learning. For example, students rotated through debate, vocabulary, and role-play stations to explore global citizenships. It works well because it gets students moving, talking, and thinking. It's especially helpful for multilingual learners. They can engage through visuals, movement, and peer support. But it's not perfect. It takes a lot of preparation. And some students, especially those with language anxiety, struggle with open-ended tasks. This connects with Hess idea 2023 that complex tasks, when designed intentionally, can deepen thinking and promote transfer. That's what I aim for. Now, let's talk about relationships. I found that teacher-student interaction is one of the biggest drivers of motivation. I often use think, pair, share with bilingual prompts. In a lesson on peace and conflict, students first reflected in pairs using Russian and English, then shared with the class. This built confidence, especially for quieter students, and created a safe space for expression. The OECD report 2021 backs this up. Students thrive when they feel emotionally supported and seen. We use rubric-based performance tasks, debates, presentations, things like that. They're great for setting clear expectations and connecting learning to real-world skills. But I've noticed that rubrics can be overwhelming for A2 to B1 plus learners. In Unit 6, for example, students presented on gender equality, but many struggled to interpret the rubric language. It affected their confidence and engagement. Rutherford et al. 2024 remind us that assessment should support learning, not just measure it. That's something I'm personally working on. One concern I have is how much we rely on summative tasks, final essays, presentations. Students often ask, will this be graded before they even engage? That tells me something off. The EAT framework, equity, agency, and transparency offers a better way. When students understand the purpose of assessment and feel ownership, they're more likely to engage deeply. That's what Rutherford and colleagues 2024 emphasize, and I've seen it play out in my own classroom. So here are three changes I've started making. First, I've added formative checkpoints, exit tickets, peer feedback loops, so students get input along the way. Second, I've simplified rubrics using icons and bilingual glossaries. It's made a big difference in accessibility Third, I introduce student-led reflection journals. For example, in Unit 5, students track their own growth and set goals. Goodwin et al. 2022 talk about the power of metacognition, and I've seen how it helps students take ownership of their learning. Active learning in action. The UNSW videos 2020 inspired me to expand active learning strategies. I've used role plays for grammar, gallery walks for peer feedback, and movement-based sentence building for kinesthetic learners. In one lesson, students created skits using modal verbs in real-life scenarios. Engagement soared, even my most hesitant learners participated. These strategies support cognitive development and make learning feel alive. To wrap up, teaching methods need to balance structure with student agency. Relationship matter. They're the foundation of motivation. Assessment should be formative, inclusive, and transparent, of course. Ultimately, assessment isn't the end of learning. It's part of the journey. When we design for growth, we empower students to take ownership of their learning. That's what I'm working toward every day. Lastly, here are the sources that shape this reflection. I've drawn from course readings, classroom observations, and research-based strategies to connect theory with practice. All citation follow APA format. Thank you.